and we started building a car, and I can't remember exactly. I don't think we ever run it. I had a couple people have told me we did run it, but I don't think we put two motors. I know we put the two motors in the Money Olds car, but I don't think we ran it. But some people say we did. You know, maybe, I don't know. But I remember what happened to the Money Olds car the night. I remember the guys come in, and he was going to talk to some guys. They came over there, and they owned an outfit called Harrell's Engines. And these two guys and this bald-headed, funny-looking guy come over whose name was Willie Borsch, and they wanted a roadster built, and that was the first Winged Express. You know, that was where the car came from. And I think Willie had been running sprint cars, and that's where he got the idea for the wing. The car wouldn't go straight, but 2/3 of the cars Lefty built wouldn't go straight. He didn't build it. He had two cars crash that he built, and one of them killed Leonard Harris, and the other one killed him. So he told me, he said, take the rear end out of that car. We had a championship rear end in it, you know, and the steering and the front end, and cut it up. And I cut the Money Olds up myself.
You were the guy that cut it up?
Yeah, I'm the guy that done that. Wow. But see, we get a lot smarter when we get older.
Yeah, sure we do.
If I'd have known that, I'd have given him $10 for the car.
Exactly. The car would have been on memory lane.
Mm-hmm.
So you found yourself out in Orange County.
Yeah. Nice place back then, believe it or not.
When was Lefty killed? 64?
In 1965.
Where?
Irwindale. I'm pretty sure the day he got killed was the day Irwindale opened.
Opening day of Irwindale.
Yeah. And
it was a rear end problem, wasn't it?
No. He showed up at the track that morning. He had a pair of M&H tires that were wore plumb out, and they told him, I was standing by him when they come up and said, we're not going to let you run those tires. Those tires are junk. Well, the guy he was driving for, that he had built the car for, he had another guy driving the car, Don Yates, and he couldn't make the car go straight. And Yates was a pretty good old driver. You probably know who he is, or was. And so Lefty said he could, but he found that they had done it. Lefty had a unique torsion bar front end, and it was adjustable, believe it or not, even back then. And the way we'd set them was carried two bathroom scales, and we'd set the wheels on it, you know. And they had it all backwards, so he adjusted it, and the car went real straight. But they bought a pair of Goodyears and put on the car, and Goodyear was having a little trouble with their tires coming apart at that time, and this happened to be a set of them. And what people think happened, and Goodyear paid his family $150,000, which is an awful lot of money back then. The tire came apart, and a piece of it hit him and knocked him out, because on his helmet there was a big rubber mark, and so that's what they think. You know, that's what they think happened to him.
I remember that when that happened. I remember the news.
Yeah, I was racing with a guy named Tom Ferraro in '64. Herbert, by then he had gotten rid of Lefty and Zane both, and what it amounted to, the Chevrolets couldn't cut it no more.
Right.
And first, he made them quit running the twin-engine cars, which our twin-engine cars were so far ahead of their time that it's matter of fact, we got up to 65. We got a little ahead there. Our twin-engine cars were head and shoulders above everybody else. We ran 182 miles an hour at Long Beach on New Year's Day, 1960, with gasoline. That car, the top speed, the fastest we ever ran was 185.95, And we ran 185.95 on gasoline. We ran 185.95 on fuel. We ran 840 flat on gasoline. We ran 840 flat on fuel. Now that's a heck of a coincidence, but that's the truth. That's the way that car would run as good on nitro as it would 25%. I mean, good on gasoline as it would 25%. We went to the airport. That's where we got our gasoline. Well, we came over here and we built the twin-engine cars, and we had trouble. I say we. Lefty had trouble making both motors run at the same time. And Chet had a dyno. We'd put them on them, and they'd put out about 700 horsepower on each one of them on gasoline.
Injected?
Injected. And we'd put them together, and they'd put out about between 975 and 1,025 horsepower together. We never could figure that out. And me and Zane Schubert, you know,
yes.
we did some thinking about this just a few years ago, and the magnetos were running opposite. That's what it was a total electrical problem. We never knew that. God knows what those things would have done if they would have run, you know, at their full potential. Because, like I said, we would go to Long Beach, and Chet Herbert, I don't know if you know him, but Chet Herbert is a real strange fellow. He's one of the smartest people I know, and I admire him a lot. But we'd make 5, 6 qualifying passes. We'd be the first car there on Saturday. Long Beach, San Gabriel, wherever we would go, and the thing would. We'd have it wore out by the time eliminations came. And we won our share after the Albertson Olds was out of the picture. Nobody beat that thing. I believe they beat us like 9 times in a row. I know it was somewhere between 8 or 9, you know, somewhere around 8 or 9 times in a row they beat us. Nobody beat that car. But after they went out of the picture, we started. God, there were many weekends we'd go to Long Beach or wherever on Saturday night, and then go maybe to Riverside or San Fernando on Sunday and win both days. But the car, like I said, Herbert is a very, very intelligent person, and Lefty was kind of crude, but he was really a hell of a craftsman. He did things that were functional. They weren't always pretty, but they worked normally. And
so Lefty was responsible for the chassis and.
Oh yeah. No, for everything.
It was obviously for the motor, too, right? I mean,
well, you know, we did everything.
Right.
But Chet, you know, he had a lot of input because he's the guy who paid the bills.
Sure.
You know, he paid all the bills. The deal was he paid the bills, Lefty kept the purses. It was like a job, you know. And you know, he kept a lot of purses.
To a certain degree, then, he did sponsor you guys.
It was his car.
It was his car, yeah. How much money do you think, I mean, what did it take to run back then?
It took Chet 7 times more than anybody else, because he had these weird ideas. Like one time he decided that in 1961, for example, he got the idea we could make a 450-inch motor out of a 283. And I remember the night he told us, and I left, and I said, back then we didn't know anything about dope, smoking dope, but we knew about that drinking kind. I said, Chet's been drinking something. I said, you think we can do that? And Lefty said, I guess we're going to find out, because he's ordered the crankshaft. He ordered a dozen crankshafts, 1-inch strokers from Moldex Crank Company. I believe they were, I don't know if they're in business now, but they were $1,000 a piece. He had to buy 12 of them. And $1,000 for a crankshaft was an awful lot of money in those days, because you'd go down to Reith and buy a 5/8 stroker for crank for like $300, $275, I think, or something like that. So we built these motors, and they sounded, you know, you got, I believe they were 454 inches. That's an awful lot of cubic inches when you got 2 of them. So we ran them. The only problem is they wouldn't live. I mean, we'd go out and make a couple of real strong passes, and then they'd be junk.
What would be their problem? What would let go?
I think the heat was the major problem because we drilled the thing way out past the water jacket and then put a giant sleeve in it, you know, to make the piston. God, it had a piston on it. It seemed like it was like a milk can, you know. And finally, we talked him into letting us go back to the 377 inches, and we really started running good then. But we went in 1960, in 61. Well, actually, we won Bakersfield in 61 with the 450-inch motors.
Really?
Yeah, we won it all.
How many rounds did you go through? How many cars were in eliminations back then?
God, I don't know.
60.
I think everybody ran at that time. I think there was there were way over 150 dragsters there.
Yeah.
Bakersfield in those days. I don't care where I was at. I worked for a company that sent me all over the United States for a long time, and come March, I was in Bakersfield. Matter of fact, I lost a good job one time over it. The guy said, "You can't take off." I said, "Well, you don't understand. I'm leaving." Because you just didn't miss Bakersfield. It was, everybody went. And to win Bakersfield was a major, major feat back in those days.
Yeah.
More so than these guys today. I don't, you know, they...
Well, to keep a motor running for five rounds.
Oh, yeah, and we didn't change motors. Nobody changed motors to track. I never saw anybody do it.
What was, back then, in those days, in the 60s, early 60s, what was the big thing? What was the big crash back then? What would they do?
Blow a head gasket, maybe. You might pull the head off and change it. But half the time, there was a reason it did it. Probably a bad head or something, so you didn't even fool with it. I think about the middle of 61, well, when we went back to Green Valley in 61, we went back there and we took, by then Roy Steen and Jeep Hampshire had came along, and Chet got the idea that these little bitty F-85 Oldsmobile motors would, in a real light car, would run, and they would. Those guys ran 810 with that thing in 61. And I think the closest car to them that day, matter of fact, everybody said the clocks were phony, which a lot of people, that's the way they interpreted, you know, if a guy made a good run back then, the first thing they hollered is phony clocks.
Right.
You know, because they only had...
This was on nitro, right?
They had nitro in the thing, and it was it was really a funny looking car. But old Jeep could drive the thing pretty good, and it
Was it blown or injected?
injected. Jeff hated blowers. Hated them. Still hates them. He's got him and Zane have a car there, a 300-inch car that Roy Steen built. Well, I don't know, 87 he built it, I think, and they were going to run it twin engine on gasoline with nitrous, and NHRA, well, they heard that he was building a car, and they passed some kind of rule that you couldn't do that no more. So he got mad and let it set for several years and started working on his land speed record car, and then he came back, and Zane has the car now, and they've redone it a little bit, and they're trying to put one, they're trying to run it on one motor. They've blown it up 3 times just warming it up. I'm not sure if they know which way they're going. Adams was going to help them with their fuel system, and then something happened. I don't know exactly what happened. But